tuned to Smooth 98.1. And this is Smooth Breakfast with me, Valentine
And Fola, this is freshly pressed.
981.
Anyone.
And of course, today we have in the studio a man, the man that just holds everything together, making sure that the stories are analyzed perfectly. His name is Uade Ahmie Inc. Niger 2017 on Twitter. Good morning.
Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Fola. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this morning, Wadi.
Thank you.
All right, Lagos, if you want to join the conversation, we encourage you to send messages through WhatsApp to 0809 You can also send messages through Twitter. Use the hashtag.
You can tweet at smooth981FM. Hashtag is freshly pressed 981.
And also YouTube, use the live chat option to leave a message reacting to the stories and let us know what your thoughts are. To start very quickly, we go to the Punch newspaper. Wadi, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
This one says representatives propose AIG as Assistant Inspector General of Police, senior lawyer for the EFCC chair, that's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. So the House of Representatives, they proposed the qualification for the chairmanship of the EFCC to be raised from Commissioner of Police, which, by the way, Magu falls in line with.
Yes.
The acting chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Ibrahim Magu, is a commissioner of police. They're asking that it be raised from that level of qualification to that of an assistant inspector general of police, and saying that the legal practitioner of not less than 20 years experience and more than 10 years experience should be considered forthwith. But take us through the story as we see that this is in line with the amendments that they're proposing.
Well, they're proposing new amendments to the EFCC Act. However, my questions will be: this is fine, moving it from commissioner to AIG. However, is it a systematic way to try and ease Mago out? That's a question for another day.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is you're asking for the head of the EFCC to be a lawyer, minimum 20 years. The next question will be, in terms of
Minimum 10 years, effectively.
is it 10 or 20?
They said minimum shouldn't be less than
Of
10
no
years.
less than 20 years
No less than
experience.
20 years, and then for not less than 10 years again, if another section of the story. So it just makes
Well,
me feel
the not less than 10 years is not for the, what's it called?
not for the commissioner.
It's not
of police.
for the chairman. For the chairman, it's minimum 20 years experience.
Okay.
That's fine. The question for me here will be, no problem. You need to have someone who understands the law
Yes.
to run the EFCC.
Yes.
But does he have to be a lawyer? We're talking about financial crimes. I hope the legal practitioners are not going to shoot me down today. But the question here is, this function is really a management function. You're meant to coordinate the system and ensure the operations work well. Why don't you strengthen the base of the operations first? Get the right people into the right places. Legal, bankers, analysts, to ensure that the information being provided to the chairman is good enough for him to make the right decisions. Because what you've seen so many times, the FCC has gone to court and then you find out that their case is not watertight. Why? Have you done the right investigations? Do you even have the right people to put these things in place? Like I always say, it's a governance issue, but governance goes beyond the head of the organization. How are you ensuring that the processes and procedures that you're using to get the information to the head to make a decision are the right things that you're putting in place? I have no problem with being 20 years. You need experience, quite all right. But you also need people from various fields, and you need to put them and change the systems of operations rather than just focus on the chairman. I think in Nigeria, we're fond of looking at the leader, that once we take out the head can be, once the head is rotten, then every other thing technically can become rotten.
But shouldn't this be considered as a suggestion going forward that maybe after Mago's tenure that could be implemented?
Well,
Because
it hasn't been signed.
Okay.
So it's
this
a
is still
proposal
a proposal at this
at
moment.
this point in time.
But
So
wouldn't you say that, being anyone who's going to be chairman, it's really valid for that person to have some legal knowledge? Maybe not a practicing lawyer, but someone with legal experience would benefit, the system.
true, but legal experience you don't have to be a lawyer. You need to be able to understand what the legal implications of things are, and then you need to have the right component of lawyers to be able to advise you and give you the right briefs towards making those decisions. So if I'm a lawyer and I'm a commercial lawyer, or I'm a what's it called? I'm a construction lawyer. Does that make me the right fit for being the head of the financial crimes? Or if I'm just a litigator, does that make me the right
Secretary?
The right person to be the head of the secretary of the EFCC? And those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves.
All right. We encourage you to send in messages through WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. The next story is from Premium Times. Local government funds, governors rise against the NFIU, writes Buhari. So in a swift reaction to the recommendations made by the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, which was before now a part of the EFCC, but then due to location issues, the purpose of institutional location is now domiciled with the Central Bank of Nigeria, and in itself is a branch of the Global Financial Intelligence Unit. They released a report 2 weeks ago. There was a mandate that was given to commercial banks to desist from authorizing financial transactions that was meant for the local government areas, local governments, to be above 500,000. So that was the limit that was given in a day
for their cash withdrawals.
For the cash withdrawals, and then eliminating third parties, like it should be withdrawn and sent directly to the local government accounts. But the governors are kicking against this, saying that the NFIU is stepping beyond what their acts, their boundaries exactly, and their responsibilities.
Personally, this is a welcome development for me.
What, the governor's reaction, or
no,
the NFIU?
What the NFIU is doing. However, the governors are right. These things went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court clearly says that the governors have mandate over the local government, and it has now been enshrined in the Constitution. So the NFIU telling bankers that the states as a whole should not have authority over the local government funds management is not right. What I think should be done here is put a proposal to the National Assembly or the states' assemblies to change the structure of the states being in charge of the local government. It would give for me, it will give the local government more autonomy, but enough money to do the things that they want to do, rather than go cap in hand to the states and asking for money every time they require something. But it's also, for me also, it's also an avenue to ensure that I am in charge. So whatever happens.
I mean, but you see that some of the core responsibilities of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, that the NFIU, is to, in principle, to concentrate on the core mandate of anti-money laundering activities, and combating financial terrorism. In some sense, couldn't you regard that as then clipping the wings of those who probably misappropriate funds meant for the local government and communities?
And that's why I said at the beginning that for me, this is a great idea. However, the law is the law. You can't wake up and change the law without going through the due process.
Exactly.
I said
exactly.
And the due process is, if you need to make these changes, propose a bill to the National Assembly, and they will take it up from there and try and change it. Because the governors, I can't remember whether it was 2003, 2004, went to the Supreme Court and they got judgment. And these things have been enshrined in the constitutions. So you can't just wake up as an intelligence agency saying that because I need to monitor or track terrorism or financial crimes, I can just pass a policy that goes against the constitution of the country. And that's where I think the issue has to be.
The contention. Yeah. Okay. Let's take messages on WhatsApp now. Mr. C from Lekki says Magu was never confirmed as EFCC chairman, so legally there is no tenure to discuss, and then we'll see that this may fall on him. But mail messages.
Another message here. Kenneth from Magodo says, what are they trying to tell us? That EFCC breaks the law, but the VP is a lawyer. That's the vice president is a lawyer. Yet federal government breaks the law also? Really? What are you talking about?
I'm sure you're mixing it up. So we're talking about the NFIU, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, not the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
And on this story, Sheil says the governors are always quick to jump to action when anything comes near the unaccounted funds they have access to. For them to act on issues that affect the citizenry, He says, "Na lie." Look at the rate of insecurity in the country, for example.
Thank you, Sean. Please keep your messages coming into WhatsApp 0809 4440981. Our next story, Uade, is from this day newspaper. The Nigerian police over the weekend shot and killed the suspected kidnapper, who they said masterminded the recent kidnap of chairman of the Universal Basic Education Board Commission, UBEC, Haji Mahmoud Abubakar, along Abuja Kaduna Highway. They said they accosted the gang along that same highway, and there was a shootout in which the notorious leader kingpin was killed. But your thoughts on this story?
Okay, let me first commend the police for acting and actually getting one of the masterminds of the UBEC chairman's kidnap. But let me also say this: do we have to get a big man kidnapped before we react to the issues of security in Nigeria? This is how I also look at this story. However, I commend the police for what they've done. I believe that there should be more effort in ensuring that the security situation in Nigeria is improved upon.
Yes.
The Operation Pofada, well, we have so many operations going on in Nigeria.
But this particular one was responsible.
Yes,
for
it was response, and
there
were some results. There is a result that came out from it. I hope they would continue the way they started and get more and more of this to improve the security in Nigeria. I think a lot of the issues, like we continue to say on this show, is not just about the police reacting, but actually having the right intelligence to be proactive in ensuring that these things don't happen.
I like that you speak of intelligence, because looking at the details of this story, I would encourage every one of you to go read the story, the report from this day newspaper. Police kill mastermind of UBEC chairman's kidnap, arrest 8 kidnappers. In this and the details, they note that the suspects, that's Sumaila Sule, alias Shaho
Mil.
Exactly, who's the mastermind, is 30 years old. He is a native of Rijana village in Kachia local government area of Kaduna State, and this area, the Abuja Kaduna Highway, is notorious for this kidnapping and the nefarious activities of this gang, and which infers that this guy is from this place, right? He's a native. He's a native,
and he lives,
right?
and he lives within that community.
So, talking about intelligence, I mean, wouldn't you? We've been calling for cooperation in forms of intelligence sharing between community leaders and the police force and the military in general. Would you say they're recording successes in apprehending these culprits based on this intelligence, or is there more to be done?
Probably they're recording some successes based on intelligence, but there's more to be done. The other thing we also have to look at in Nigeria is a lot of people who can provide you the right kind of intelligence are always not willing. Why? Maybe because Sumaila Sule, who when he gets some money spreads it across the town, and so the level of poverty also brings into question who is willing to provide you the necessary intelligence for you to do a lot of all those things. But
could it also be fear?
Fear also,
because sometimes you realize that people sometimes would know certain things but are afraid of going to the authorities and talking.
Yes, but however, like I said, the police should ensure, like Valentine also stated, everybody should work together, because different intelligence agencies have different contacts who provide them intelligence. So once you're able to share a lot of all this, it makes it easier for someone to tell the army one thing, and then that message can get to the police, and you can make this kind of arrest and so on. But we need to focus more on intelligence rather than just reaction of they caught someone or they kidnapped someone. Let's go there and get the person out.
And kudos to the Nigerian police force. And
I really commend them for that.
And we have messages here on WhatsApp. Bank, what's his name? OJ from Mobalaji Bank Anthony sent in this message. It says, why don't they propose that all National Assembly members should be lawyers and the National Assembly president should have 10 to 20 years experience? After all, they are lawmakers, right? More messages.
Very interesting thought. Lagos, okay. Eze from Yaba says Lagos State under Tinubu, that's former Governor Tinubu, took the federal government to court as per the local government funds. While I appreciate what the NFI is trying to do, how will a state like Lagos with 26 local community development areas, LCDAs, outside the constitutionally recognized 27 local government areas handle this request?
That's the NFIU request.
Good question.
Question there. New Telegraph is next. So let's talk about the accounts. Now, Federation Accounts Allocation Committee FAC, they've queried revenue shortfall of about 26.7 billion naira by the Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS. They said the amount is in variance to the balance in the Central Bank of Nigeria coffers, which means by inference, literally translating to mean that the amounts as domiciled in the CBN does not correspond with how much they've put out to have realized over the period of time in question.
Interesting.
What are your thoughts on this?
Very interesting. First and foremost, a lot of people need to understand that sometimes there is a need for reconciliation between both parties. That's the CBN and FIRS.
Yeah.
FIRS reports are based on monies that have hit the banks, that have been remitted into their bank accounts, and those filing papers that have been submitted to them. Now, the next question we need to ask here is, have the banks remitted all these monies to the CBN? Because the collection banks can sometimes not that the proper reconciliation has been done with the FIRS unit before the remit. So there's a possibility that this 26.7 billion really is another cry of wolf, and it will definitely get back to the CBN.
Why would you call it that? This is May, right? And the period in question is between December 2018 and January of 2019.
So
isn't it enough time to do that reconciliation?
Well, you're reviewing December and January and providing a report in May. What happened to the February, March, April, May reconciliation? So we need to always remember that there might be a slight gap. So if you had come to me in April and said, after all the reconciliations, we saw that the December-January figure was 26.7 billion short till today, then I should be jumping and asking those questions. But I'm sure if you go back and you do your proper reconciliation, which is what they've asked the FIRS and CBN to do,
yes,
and then they will go back to them and tell you that, well, the monies have come. It's just a short gap in remittance.
I guess we'll follow this. We'll follow the story. Not I guess it's definitely follow.
Definitely.
Please, we need to follow it so that we'll find out
the
by the
answer
time
is-
they do the next reviews and find out whether the monies are actually there.
And then again, the attention is very, very strong on FIRS because their target is really large for
Yes,
this year.
it is.
And in terms of revenue collection, let's go back to the story from the Vanguard newspaper. As this one reads, Atiku demands 500 million naira from Buhari's aide for defamation. So the person in question is Loretta Onoche, who's an aide to President Muhammadu Buhari. The Atiku, that the former presidential candidate under the flag bearer of PDP, actually said that she should pay the sum of 500 million naira for posting a tweet. Now, the tweet particularly read or insinuated that the former Nigerian Vice President Atiku Abubakar has been in the Middle East in Middle East nation for several weeks now, and the authorities are investigating him. And let me paraphrase the tweet. Security operatives in the United Arab Emirates are keeping a close tab on the former Nigerian Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who's been in the Middle East nation for several weeks now. What is he going to do there, or what is he doing there? But then the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar said, if she does not pay the sum of 500 million naira and retracts the statements published in 6 national papers and 1 international daily, as well as on social media, he would sue her for 2 billion naira.
I think Atiku should go ahead and sue.
Why?
Why though?
Well, because I've been involved in this kind of things before, where people wake up in the morning and then you pick up something and then you tweet it without going to find out the real details of it. I don't know if the UAE is investigating Atiku, but when you tweet this kind of things, then you should be able to back them up with facts and documents to show. Are you with me? Did they get a search warrant? Did they get a court order?
Is there truth to this?
Yes. Is there any document that has been released by the UAE security operatives saying that we're investigating Atiku? Because libel is huge, and in Nigeria we take it for granted and say, oh, it's something I saw somewhere and I tweeted it. So when people start to apologize in public for this kind of things, other people would stop it. And when you pay a huge sum of money for it, I know I had an experience some time back where some soft sell magazine put one story, and at the end of the day he came back apologizing. Why? Because when the facts were there and they came out, there was no truth in it. So
But what do you think that the presidential candidate or former vice president Atiku Abubakar would be suing for 2 billion if Loretta Onochie wasn't an aide of President Muhammadu Buhari?
irrespective of who Loretta Noche is, if you don't tell the truth, sue the person.
Or if you don't have
the backing to a story, sue the person, whether he's an aide or he's the owner of a newspaper station, sue the person so that you can actually settle amicably, and then everybody knows that you don't do that the next
or
time.
perhaps she comes forward with a proof.
Exactly.
We'll follow the story very closely.
Indeed. Moving on to this day, this story here says a presidential committee that was set up by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, has disclosed that the federal government and some Niger Delta states, namely Bayelsa, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom, lost $46 billion. That's approximately 1.6 trillion to oil companies operating in the country under the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contracts Act. So the panel now has recommended that the oil multinationals should pay that money to the federal government and the affected states, which are entitled to 13% of the entire amount. What do you think?
Well, I think we said something about this a few months ago when it first came out, when the states were suing and saying that the price of the crude barrel of crude had gone beyond $20 for a long time. And I think initially the amount was about $1.2 trillion, and it's come down to 46 billion. I'm sure the IOCs would sit down and negotiate with them.
IOCs being international oil companies.
Yes, the international oil companies will sit down and have a discussion with them. But the other thing I also like to share here is this. A lot of the funding that goes into the joint ventures today are provided by the IOCs. So are they sure that this 46 billion really
have not been used? Is
it really available? So those are the kind of things that we need to start looking and checking out for. It will be a good story to continue to follow up on, to find out what the final decision will be. But I'm sure something tells me at the back of my mind that the IOCs are going to push back. $46 billion is a lot of money.
It is.
Indeed.
Shego sent in a message on WhatsApp, says, Atiku, please sue, so that Femi Fani-Kayode and his likes can realize that the terrain has changed. Very interesting. And Tosin from Aja says, on the governor's reactions to the NFIU mandate, Cheta basically prophesied that they would say, or what they would say and what they would do. I applaud the intention behind the NFIU's action, but these anti-corruption and transparency agencies need to examine their powers and predict the blowback of hindrances that may occur. Now they wasted time and now they look so incompetent that they do not know their boundaries or mandates. Mr. Chukuma says, if the tweet is the basis of Atiku's claim, it doesn't have much to go with, because there's really nothing defamatory about it, because she merely asked a question. Mr. C from Lekki, she asked, well, what's he doing there?
But she also insinuated that he's on a watch list.
So
that's
I guess
that's a big deal.
Semantics.
That's a big deal. All right, that's a very interesting story here. This is actually the result of an investigative report done by the Punch newspaper. And it says, like teaching hospitals, state hospitals across the country are fast collapsing following the neglect of the health facilities by state governors. The Punch investigated. They said across the country, investigations showed that buildings in many of those hospitals are in a state of disrepair, while the health institutions lack equipment as well as basic consumables needed to treat patients. In fact, in some hospitals, health personnel attended to patients on the corridor. For instance, the General Hospital in Calabar, Cross River State, some patients were being attended to on the floor, the corridor close to the outpatient department. Wade, your thoughts?
Wow. Where do I start? This is, I think I spoke about this, I think it was a couple of months ago. Healthcare in Nigeria is, I can't find the right word to describe it.
Is suffering?
Suffering is
Putting it
mild.
Mild way to
It's
put
putting
it.
mildly. When you attend to patients on the corridor, you hang drips on the window. Patients lie on the floor due to lack of space. Why won't we have more and more people trying to get outside the country to get healthcare? More and more doctors are leaving the country, and a minister claimed that we had so much and we're exporting them. It's really a sad situation. But the other thing about it is, like I continue to say, if government cannot handle a lot of all these things, work with people who can help you fund some of these things.
But isn't in the interest you should look for first? If you're calling on the government to work with people to remedy the situation in the health industry or the state of emergency, I'd like to say, I mean, the same government, are you talking about the same government who some of the members are actually proposing for a medical allowance to be issued to them for a lifetime,
so they can travel abroad.
So they can travel abroad to seek medical attention. Is that the same government that you would expect to give that much attention, much needed attention to the healthcare industry?
Well, who can I call upon again if not the government?
Because at the same time, the healthcare delivery is a primary responsibility of government.
We both agree, or we all agree on that. And if people, like I said, a lot of people are doing health tourism, and the governors are asking for that, are taxpayers' monies to do health tourism for them. It's sad. Every government comes into power and tells you, oh, we're going to focus on health. The amount of money, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, the amount of money that we pay on subsidies is more than the budget for health every year. And it's sad. So why don't we just deregulate the oil and gas
the health sector,
and then face education and health? 700 billion every year.
But the government is dependent largely, or the economy is dependent largely on oil and gas. So where would you get the money to carry out the reforms if you wanted?
Taxes. Improve your tax collection system. Get these people to do the business of. Government has no business in doing business, and I state this every time. You know, let the people who have an idea of doing business do business, and you tax them and you make your tax systems more efficient. When you look at the deplorable state of the hospitals or the health sector in Nigeria, it is sad. You know, you fall ill, you go to a general hospital. Some hospitals, if you don't have your tax clearance card, you can't get treatment, and not that it's free. So I think there's so much that needs to be done. It's a sad development all across Nigeria, and I do hope the people who are in charge will do the right thing.
And will read this report and listen to.
I hope so. I hope so.
Femi from VI sent in this message.
All right, and Femi says Loretta ought to be sued for more. She has a history of libel and fake news as a presidential aide. This is inexcusable. She needs to be made an example of for others.
And Lorenzo says the minister has said what it is. Doctors, that the health minister said doctors should go become farmers and tailors. We're joking in this country. Francis from Yaba says, I think that the fact that Loretta is an aide to the president is more reason why she should be sued. Why can't we be preaching to stop fake news up and down while those in government keep spreading these? That's Eze from Yaba.
That's true.
Good. All right, moving on. There's a story here from the Premium Times, and this is about insecurity. The governor of Nasarawa State, Tanko Almakura, has responded to a Freedom of Information request by SERAP, that's the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project. They're asking for accountability, and he says he's responding and asking for more time to compile and provide details on the spending by the state on security votes. And he says this will require more than 7 days to process, given that the information being requested covers a period of 8 years.
What are your thoughts?
What are your thoughts? Because he's not the only governor being asked.
If you have your records, are you with me? It shouldn't take you 24 hours to show your transparency. More than 24 hours. Well, if it's 8 years, let's give him benefit of the doubt that some of these records well, if you use the statutory limits of information being provided, which is I think 6 or 7 years, maybe you would say 7 years of record. So one has already gone fully into the archives, and the other ones probably be in the archives. But I don't know what kind of archives.
What archives?
That's what I'm asking. Is it paper archives or electronic archives? However, the governor needs to respond, but he hasn't even specified what time he's going to use to respond to the questions.
Just like Fola said, he's not the only governor. So if you are going to ask one governor and he says that he needs more time.
How long do you need? You need a week? Do you
How
need
about
a month?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you need to provide us. Okay, I can't do it in 7 days. I'll do it in 30 days. At least we'll now have a timeline.
Do you honestly believe there are records?
Oh,
like
of
that?
course. Well, like I said, they're in the archives, so they need to bring them out. Whether I believe they are available or not is not the issue.
Right.
But there must be records of all these things, because these monies come to them and they have records of it when they collect them. Maybe they don't have records of when they spend them.
All right, Modupa Sanda on YouTube sent us a message. She said it's interesting that we're discussing raising the required qualification for EFCC, but no one is talking about minimum required qualifications for the #1 seat in the country. Well, the minimum qualification as it stands based on 1999 Constitution is still SSE. So,
and like I tell people, if you want to change it, put a bill to the National Assembly and let them change.
Yes?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Uade, for being here with us and analyzing the stories. Find him up on Twitter at ReInkNiger 2017. For us here, still on Smooth Breakfast. Next, in 30 minutes, we talk sports inside the locker room. Good morning.
The headlines. The stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.